All right, everyone, welcome back to Critical Conversations. I am your host, Karissa Dean. I wanted to take a brief moment before we dive into today's conversation and just say thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing and following. It means the world to me. And today I have a really fascinating guest coming to help educate those of us who are interested in publishing, self-publishing, are looking at book deals, different things in the realm of what it takes to become a published author. So Michele DeFilippo is here to give us all the knowledge. I'm going to turn it over to her now, and she'll give a brief intro about herself.
Hey, well, thank you, Karissa. I appreciate your having me on your show. I hope I can be useful to your listeners. The main thing I want to say to people, which is becoming forgotten, is that you do not need a publisher to self-publish your book. If you go online and start looking for information about how to publish your book, the first thing you're going to find is page after page of publishing companies, publishers, hybrid publishers, self-publishing companies, whatever they call themselves. But the reason I'm doing these podcasts is because self-publishing originally meant that the author was the publisher. So I'm just here to talk about that model, which I think is more beneficial to authors, and talk about that.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting misconception in the world of being an author where if you have a book, you're suddenly worth millions or something. But if you actually go in and do the nitty gritty, the only person really getting rich off of these books are the people who are publishing it, the big houses. Is that accurate statement?
Well, there's a lot of expenses in publishing. The main one is the retailer. People don't know that Amazon takes 40% of the cover price, and some of the other outlets, such as physical bookstores, take even more than that. They'll take 55% of the retail price that you set. So that's even more of a reason not to work with a middleman publisher, because in addition to the retail discount and in addition to the printing cost, these publishers take even more money out of your pocket. Now, there's nothing wrong with paying for professional services to produce your book, and that's actually necessary. My company offers those services, but the main point I want to make is that you, the author, should always remain in charge of your publishing enterprise. You should have direct access to your print-on-demand accounts. You should get the reports. You should get the deposits to your bank account. And when you set it up that way, and we can help you do that, you'll make more money, you'll keep control of your book, and you won't ever have to worry about a middleman going out of business and stranding you.
Interesting. Yeah. So what you're saying is really it's important for the self-publisher to have their control of how everything is being distributed. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. The tools to distribute a book worldwide are available to anyone. There are two main print-on-demand platforms, KDP.com and IngramSpark.com, and anyone can open up an account, create a username and a password, and you're in. And after that, all you have to do is prepare your book and get the files uploaded to these two platforms. We also help with that. And then you are the publisher of your book, which is the original model for self-publishing before it got so confusing.
Yeah. So what is it that you're saying right now when you say people are being taken advantage of? What are you speaking to specifically?
Well, I think back in the day, and still, traditional publishers do not charge the author to produce the book. They pay all the expenses to produce have the experts edit and design the book. And the author in return is paid a small royalty, and that's how the publisher makes back its investment. Perfectly legitimate business model. Original self-publishing, like I just described it, the author makes the investment in the professional services, and then the author receives all of the net revenue from sales. The author is the publisher. But what we now have is middlemen publishers who charge the author to produce the book, and they take money out of their pocket every time they sell a book. And that's not too advantageous to the author.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting over here doing rough math. So I looked on Amazon to order a book the other day. It was like $25. And if 40% of that off the top, let's use $20, 40% off the top is going to Amazon. And then if you have anyone in between there, they're probably taking another 10 to 20%. And so really, what are you looking at? Like $5 every book for this labor of love that because writing a book, I think it can take some people 6 months to a year or beyond.
If not longer.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, if not longer. So it's interesting to kind of break it down and do the math in that regard. How did you get into wanting to speak and share and offer these services yourself?
Well, I've been offering these services since I've been in the publishing industry since 1972 in lots of different aspects. I owned a typesetting business from 1980 to 1993. My claim to fame is that Steve Jobs put all typesetting businesses out of business when he invented Apple computer. But now we use Apple computers to create the same kind of work I've always done. So in 2001, I started 1106 Design because that's when self-publishing really began to ramp up, and I knew exactly what to do to serve those customers. And so we've been doing it ever since. Now, the numbers you brought up are interesting because I actually have that calculation for you.
Great.
On a $20 book, Amazon at a 40% discount will take $4. The printing is deducted also. That's another, Amazon will take $8, which is the 40% wholesale discount. The printing is $4, and so the author winds up with $8 per book. Not bad, right? Now, if they work with a publisher, I have talked to authors personally, they're being paid $2 or $3 for every book sold. So the publisher is actually making more money than the author on every book sold. So, of course, there's a whole spectrum of services and publishing available. If your publisher is doing something in return for that revenue share, then there's no problem. For example, if they're paying for marketing or something like that, fine, that's a partnership. But many of these publishers aren't doing anything for you except uploading your book and picking your pocket.
Yeah. That's kind of my curiosity. I've been an avid reader for years and years, and I always wonder about how do they make it work? If it's such a long, I can imagine it's a long period of time to write some of these amazing books that we read. I'm a big reader. I read probably one book a week. And some of them are Audible. Most of them are, old school textbook. So is it changing too then with Audible as well as like Kindle readings? Or what are those numbers looking like for people?
Oh, well, it's funny because ebooks we're probably in our third generation of ebooks. And ever since the beginning, everyone predicted that ebooks were going to put an end to print books. That didn't happen. Now they're saying audiobooks are going to put an end to print books. That hasn't happened. Audiobooks are selling very well, and so are ebooks and print books. All formats are selling.
Yeah, because it's nice to have something in your ear when you're driving or when you're, traveling, flying. I love listening to audiobooks when I'm out and about. But there's nothing that can replace the feeling of holding a book in your hands. And I personally never got into the ebook, Kindle generation, but my mom loves it. What is it that, when somebody, I think the misconception of what maybe holds people back, this is just my intuitive thought, is there's so much as far as the options, but you're making it sound so simple. Like I could do it right now.
It is simple. We can serve authors once they have finished their manuscript. And what we do is we walk them step by step through the process with whatever services they need, all the way from editing to ebook formatting and uploading, like I said. And they really don't have to struggle. They can choose to hire their own freelancers if they want to, but that's fraught with risk. And you never really know. If you're going into the publishing business for the first time, how do you know you've chosen someone who's qualified? It's really risky, and we get a lot of calls from authors who chose the wrong person, and the files that they purchased don't upload. There's all sorts of problems. So what we have done is build the team so that we manage the project for you. My team of experts, each of them in turn, will take care of everything that's needed. We'll collaborate with you every step of the way. And at the end of the process, you'll have a great book.
Amazing. Where's your business located, or are you all over?
I'm in Phoenix. My team is all over the United States, and we can serve people worldwide.
I love that. What got you into publishing?
It was dumb luck. I actually went to I actually went to school for advertising art. I fully expected to work in ad agencies in New York, where I grew up. But
Yeah.
I went for an interview at Crown Publishers, and they were the first ones to offer me a job. So that's how I began.
What's the evolution of that industry been, as far as, we're looking at back in the day typewriters to then computers to now AI? Like, what are the fears or worries that are kind of in that hubbub right now?
There's been tons of technology changes. When I owned my typesetting company, we didn't have computers yet. We had computerized typesetting machines. But back in that day, you needed one machine to do the words and another machine to do the pictures. And then someone would literally cut and paste the two together to make pages. So it's hard to imagine now, but that's how it was done back then.
Yeah. Wow.
So then personal computers came around, and all of a sudden it was possible to be so much more productive because you could put words and pictures together on a page yourself for far less cost and far less time than the old methods would allow. And that's why all typesetting businesses evaporated at the time, including mine. Yeah.
What are your opinions on AI as far as,
I don't know. I think it has tons of possibilities. I'm also at the same time, a little frightened of it because I think it also has the potential to be misused.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it shakes out.
Yeah. But as far as like writers utilizing AI to help them write books, what are your opinions around that?
My personal opinion is that I think it may be great for research to help you decide what to write about, maybe even to help you rough out or conceptualize your text. But I hope humans will always write books because in all our experience, no two authors are alike, no two manuscripts are alike. And I would hate to see a world where human creativity is not welcome anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about when you mentioned that, your team can help people do all aspects. How important is the marketing and advertising for an author?
It's very important because think about it. You can't buy any product or service if you haven't heard about it. So the same is true for books. A lot of authors are introverts and they will say to me, "Oh, I can't imagine going out and promoting my book." So you have to kind of get over that hurdle and conquer your fear and just be ready to talk about your book because that's the only way anyone is going to hear about it.
Yeah. What are the ways in which you see most beneficial for authors to get the word out about their books?
Social media, by far. No question. You can write blog posts. You can have your book reviewed by websites that focus on the printed word, on published books. Lots of far more avenues now than there ever were before. And that's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time because, where do you focus? But that's what book marketing experts do. We don't do the marketing in-house because it's a specialty all its own. But what I do is refer people to book marketers that I trust.
Yeah. I think it is a specialty niche, right? Because it's getting people to buy a story within a story, or a theory within a story, right? You're trying to captivate them to want more. And I think I love marketing and advertising, and I think that it is such a delicate thing when it comes to books because you say the one wrong thing and you can turn somebody off pretty quick. What is the most inspiring thing for you when you're working with self-publishing authors?
Oh, the inspiring thing for us has been just the variety of titles we've been blessed to produce. I mean, we've done textbooks, memoirs, novels, business books. We're currently working on a 500-page poetry book,
Wow.
which the author has been writing for 40 years.
Wow.
And he's finally getting around to produce it. It's never boring to work on books.
Yeah, never boring. How many books do you think you've read in your 50 years?
Well, we've produced 4,000 books since 2001, and probably a bunch more before that. I never counted back then. My personal reading, believe it or not, suffers because I spend so much time working.
Yeah.
But I like you, I appreciate audiobooks in my spare time because I'm looking at a screen all day, and I find audiobooks much more relaxing.
Yeah, definitely. What else do you want, the audience to know about self-publishing?
Well, the main point I would like to make is just make sure you keep control of your publishing enterprise. And the only way you can do that is if you open up your own print-on-demand accounts in your own name and hire somebody to help you get the book ready for uploading, right?
Yeah.
And to please focus on quality. There's a whole spectrum of services out there from very low quality to very high quality. And the low quality you'll get what you pay for, just like in any other business. So I can give people some tips on how to find a good cover designer, for instance.
Perfect.
If you're looking at a cover designer, of course, you should look at the samples on their website, but then you can open up a separate window in your browser and look at the books from major publishers. And you can tell in a glance whether or not that cover designer has the necessary experience to work on that level. Also, don't do a lot of research in bookstores. Go because if you only look at your own self-published book or your friend's self-published book, you may not be seeing the whole picture. If you go to a bookstore, you'll get your instincts will be sharpened. You'll understand what a good book looks like, and then you can more accurately go out and find providers that work at that level.
How important is the cover art?
Critical. The cover has one job, and that's to make people stop. You can drive all the people in the world to Amazon. And when you do that, Amazon is going to show the best-selling book covers right along with yours. So if your book cover looks self-published, people are going to look at that and they're going to reject it. They're going to think it looks risky. So it's critically important to work with someone who can design a cover at the traditional publisher level so that even though people haven't heard of you, your cover looks like a reliable, credible book, and they will at least click and learn more about it, right?
Yeah.
Once they click it, it's no longer our decision. We can't know what any individual likes or doesn't like, but that cover has to make them stop and at least consider your book. And it won't do that if it looks self-published or homemade.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the books that I have. I don't know if any of them are self-published because I think that they're done so well.
Well, you can get good services and self-publish, and that's what we do and many others like us. But the narrative out there is to go find someone on Fiverr. And that's often risky. We get calls every week from someone whose files won't upload because the person on Fiverr didn't know how to do it correctly. So.
Yeah.
We can make it easy for you. Just send us your manuscript and we'll walk you through everything.
I like it. I love it. What are your favorite topics?
Oh, gosh. I love business books more than anything else because I always learn something every time I browse through them. Yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite business book that you have published?
Oh, gosh. Probably.
Or that you guys have worked on, I should say.
The most useful one I would say we helped an author with was a few years ago, and it was called Beyond Paycheck to Paycheck.
Ooh.
And it was personal financial advice.
I love that.
Yeah. And I really liked that book because it was just solid advice that anyone could understand. It wasn't financial speak, which is sometimes over everybody's head, Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, and through no fault of the author, they know who their audience is, right?
Yeah.
But for example, in this book, one of the things the author said always stuck with me, and it was, you should know what you're spending your money on. And for example, eating is a need, eating out is a want.
Yeah.
And so if you filter all of your financial spending decisions through that sort of analysis, then you're not going to overspend. You're not going to wind up with no money because you spent it frivolously.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole different conversation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Financial literacy and money, and yeah, that's a big hot topic.
Well, we're just bombarded by ads to spend money all day long.
Oh yeah. All day long. All day long. I actually should probably look at how much I've spent on books, because I'm very quick to just buy. And I have just stacks and stacks that I just haven't had time to get to. I have an entire library. But I love reading and I love educating. I really like authors. Some of the nicest people I've ever met are those introverted artistic authors who are really, they're it's a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to hear your opinion about, I'm sure it's out there in the world of self-publishing. What's the risks people run in self-publishing as far as plagiarism goes? What do they need to be looking out for?
I don't know how to answer that plagiarism question anymore with AI in the mix.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Because clearly AI has been scooping up everything we wrote for the last 20 years. Otherwise it wouldn't be so smart.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I again, that's one of the things I worry about.
Yeah. How are you protecting your people who come through you? How's their stuff protected?
Well, we all of our files are behind a firewall. So, we don't worry about that. But
yeah.
But, once they're out in the world, who knows?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what kind of robots are crawling the internet to steal everybody's content.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, being that today is the day that it is, and all the things happening in the world right now, I choose not to live in fear. I choose to really wholeheartedly trust myself to handle whatever comes next. So, that leaves a lot of space for, things to go wrong. But if you trust yourself, if you trust that things are happening for you, and then you also take the action to protect yourself, I think that, the sky's the limit for your potential. I talk with my clients all the time about, we do live in this 3D world and we have to play that game, but you also have to take action and do the thing that you love to do and not be so afraid to take that action. So for the person who's listening right now, Michele, and they have an idea, maybe they wrote their manuscript, maybe not yet, what would you tell them?
I would say like you just said, don't operate out of fear, because success isn't guaranteed to anyone in any field, in any endeavor. Right? Yeah. It takes courage to live.
But it does.
But I, like you, I choose to believe that most people are good. You take prudent actions to protect yourself, but you can't go around being afraid of what might happen, because you'll just be paralyzed and you'll never accomplish anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's some really magical people out there that I hope are listening. I can think of a few friends and a few clients who I hope are listening and are going to get inspired to take their idea to the next level. How can people get in contact with you, Michele, to request more information about your services?
Oh, we would love to hear from your listeners. My website is 1106design.com, and anyone who goes there can download my free book. It's called Publish Like the Pros, and it's just a survey of all the services you might be interested in for your book, and another discussion of the numbers we went over briefly, and just the explanation of how you can and should keep control of your book so that you make the most money and you never lose it to someone who may not have good intentions.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you, where did the name come from? What does it mean?
Well, in 2001, there were no domain names left for graphics companies. So I used my birthday.
Ah, okay, perfect.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, what a great birthday. Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
And, I'm excited for people to tap into their magic and connect with you. And I think it's great that you're out there doing what you're doing, trying to educate people. There's a lot of bad scams out there. I think about all the time those letters that come through my mailbox that are telling me that I have to pay X amount of dollars for said poster, or, I'm sure you get them too. And It's all like, oh, it's a scam. And how do we protect the people? And I think we protect the people by asking more questions.
That's absolutely correct. And I will say, if you do contact us, we'll have a respectful conversation with you. We will never pressure you, and we will never start sending 5 emails a day to annoy you. We do business the old-fashioned way in that regard.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I appreciate you being here. I am super thankful for this conversation. I hope you guys will take a moment and reach out to Michele and her team if you're thinking about writing your book, or maybe a poem. I've heard poems. Do you do like journals and different things like that as well?
Sure. We can do any kind of book.
All right. Anything. All right. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Critical Conversations, you guys. I hope you all have the most beautiful day.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.